Hi everyone, and welcome to the pre-recorded show of Babbling Irons, where we take on the topic of the Emerson deal, which is currently just collapsed due to personal terms. As we understand, the two clubs were quite close to an agreement in terms of the fee for Emerson, the Italian international. But at this point in time, the club and the player are at two different poles when it comes to agreeing on personal terms. Now, the deal's not completely over, as it's been said by multiple kind of outlets, but I think it's fair to say that at this point in time, the deal won't be happening. So what will be interesting is to see if this is a negotiation tactic by West Ham United or whether this is a genuine thing on the deal collapsing. So first off, Sloth, what are your initial thoughts on this deal collapsing? I know from that shrug there, not very bothered.
Yeah, I mean, good. Like I kind of did. I put out a tweet saying that I like Emerson. He's not looked bad whenever I've seen him, but for £15 million that apparently Chelsea want and the kind of wages, we walked away from an 09 deal where this player has potentially big sell-on value and room to grow into a contract. I don't see the point of signing him. It's a weird one, especially when you've got a lot of different options out there. You've got a lot of different levels in terms of players you can potentially look to improve, sell on for a profit. All players who are going to be well priced. Or even, as I kind of hinted at as well in that tweet, a potential stopgap, which we know is or has been in the past a bit of a favourite of sorts. So I'm not bothered. Is the way to sum it up.
So I'll play from the other side then. I think when you look at the deal, it made sense on many levels for David Moyes in that he's a known quantity in the Premier League champion as well. Has not played a huge amount, but was a figure under Conte and was relatively trusted. He is an Italian international. And when you look at how he performed at Lyon last year, whilst not scintillating, he was still quite solid. And he was probably, when you look at Lyon, probably the most solid players in their defence were probably both their fullbacks in Gusto and Emerson. Obviously, they had the young kid coming through, but ultimately they were quite porous. But that was also because they had a midfield that negated the the defensive aspect of the game. So it left that defence pretty isolated most games. So I can understand it in that respect because he is quite good in possession. He's confident and so on. So I do understand where the club are coming from. Would I say I am massively disappointed? No. I do believe he would still be an upgrade on what we have currently left back, which is only one option anyway. But I do think he would have offered more for us, particularly in attack, which would have been obviously an improvement on what we have in terms of he will drive with the ball. But obviously at this point in time, the deal is kaput. We have no chance of moving forward in its current state. So we're kind of now fallen into the trap of, sorry, not what does he bring? That's from something else. But what are our options? We've talked about Merla, we've talked about Sousa, Jacobs recently, Grimaldo, Thomas. There are options that we have looked at. There are possible avenues in which we can go. But, at this point in time, we are left back to square one, scratching our heads going, well, what's the next step? Now, where would you go if you were currently in the decision? Where would you be kind of swaying in terms of your decision at this point?
I think if we're going to go three at the back, there's only one place I'd go, and that's Sousa. We've covered him a lot, so I won't say too much more than just the fact that if we are playing three at the back, he makes way more sense than anyone else. Just the ability, the delivery, the danger he poses with his crossing ability, set pieces, and his pace and size.
Yeah,
he
and as
is
you can see in this graphic as well.
yeah, he's head and shoulders above the competition that in that area for a wing back position, in my opinion. Anyway, the only player who was really kind of head to head with him has decided not to join us, and it's Kostic. So
I think there's also Ron, wasn't there? Who's also another player who's interesting who has obviously gone to Leipzig. So you can see there's a particular type of player we've gone for. So Sousa, when you think of Kostic, when you think of obviously Ron, very, very similar. I guess the other point is we've now brought in Cornet since. So the argument is maybe that left wing back position isn't necessarily as pressing as it once was, because it could be a belief that Cornet could play as a left wing back with a left winger in front of him. I personally think that would not be the best way to utilise Cornet. I think he's far more deadly further forward, but that's not my decision. But obviously, we've had some other kind of players as well. One that we haven't really talked around previously, but has been linked is Ishmael Jacobs.
Yeah,
so he's currently at Monaco. Just been there since his first season. He signed for around about €6 million, I believe, last season. He's had a really quite solid season. It was his first year in Ligue 1. In possession, he can improve his passing. Obviously, when you look at the kind of statistics, he is pretty good in quite a few aspects, but there are areas of improvement, shall we say, when it comes to that. But he is very creative, much like Sousa. When he gets into that final third, his delivery is normally on point or very dangerous. Hence why he has such a high kind of key passes rate. Defensively, he's strong. Can play left back, left wing back. But I think our problem really is now when we talk about, well, where do we go? There are some great options, but it all comes down to the budget. And I think when you look at what we've been looking at, we probably would say we only have around about £15 million on which to spend on a left back or wing back. But I think when you look at the players we've been linked to, probably Luke Thomas, I think he's also one that I don't think many of us are that interested in. Now, he is young, homegrown, so they are two very good things for any club. But he's not necessarily dazzled at Leicester. Not necessarily that well thought after by their fans either. And he's also going to be about 20 million, so it's probably above our budget right now. So of the options, obviously I know Sousa's quite keen for you. But if you was to look at, say, a more, I guess, rooted in a left back kind of position, who would be your kind of preference of kind of ones that we've spoken about previously?
Mine would be Ben Sabini, to be honest. I know he's not really one we've covered much. We've been linked with him in the past, but
Play left centre back as well, and part of a 3-man defence as well. Yeah,
exactly. He's a 6'2", quick on the ball, very, very capable, but also naturally defensive player. He's not he can play wing back because he's very athletic and he's quite quick. He can give your wingers the cover that he needs because he will just run up and down that side. However, he's not as defensively naive as someone like Sousa, and he will be a lot more switched on as to what's going on around it.
Yeah. I think also the link with Ben Ramo is obviously would also be a benefit as well, being international teammates, playing on the same side, obviously. So there is also that as an added incentive, maybe to investigate or look at that deal.
Yeah, that was one of the big things that kind of, to me as well, I think that's a great option to kind of give him a bit of a confidence boost as well. But also, he's in the last year of his contract, so he's probably not going to break the bank, and Gladbach are probably going to look to want to get something for him. So I personally think if you threw £15 million at them, they take it, and he's probably going to want the move because Gladbach are coming off I'll be honest, a disaster of a season. It was, for what they wanted, way below where they wanted to be. and he's still got quite a few years ahead of him. And as I said, he can offer a bit of cover. He can play left centre back. He can play left back. And if that means that, say, Cresswell is the starting left back or even left centre back, they can both be rotated between, because we've seen that before. That Moyes likes to play Cresswell between those two positions. He would be my kind of plan B. But I think for that kind of £15 million market, he's probably the best option. I know we're getting linked with Grimaldo quite a lot, and it's a very, very tempting deal. I just kind of, part of my brain doesn't really think that we'll be able to get him for £15 million. So I'm just kind of.
Yeah, so Benfica doesn't normally sell players cheaply, and even though it's in the last year of his deal, I would be surprised if they're willing to let him go for, say, 15 million euros. I think even at one point there was rumours about 10 million euros, but
yeah,
I think that's probably a little. I don't really see that happening. I think otherwise he would have been snapped up already. I don't think that's probably the price. I think that's the entry level fee to get the discussions, I think, with him. Personally, I really like Merla. He plays at Atalanta, playing it as a.
Missed an absolute sitter.
I know. I saw the game. It was one of those games where you say he had an eventful first half.
Yeah.
The ball kind of bobbled on through, didn't have his feet set, and missed from about 4 yards, which is very much unlike him as well.
So we'll fit, given the
given what happened in the Forest game, and then also had a complete and utter goal-saving tackle as well. It was an incredible come flying in out of nowhere, in off the left-hand side to make it a brilliant block in the early minutes. Also nearly had an error saved by VAR, which then stopped Sampdoria game 1-0. So to say his first 45 minutes was eventful is an understatement. But that's not his normal 45 minutes. I do like the fact that he can play on both sides. Again, I think that's a really good thing. And, we've mentioned stopgap. Personally, I look at Merla as a player that would be a very good and strong option to bring in at left back for us, or left wing back, because he can play that position. But also, I think long term, it also means that we have longer to go and get the left back that we really want and really desire. I think of the options, I'm not sure there's one in there currently that Moyes is maybe massively enamoured with or really actually wants wholeheartedly. Otherwise, I think we maybe would have made a move for them already. Again, Merla probably does also fall into that category, but I do think with him is that should we get someone like him, that could be our long-term right-back option, because I do have reservations around Soufal at the moment. And I think looking at how Moyes is talking around certain players at the moment, I do think there are some conversations that may be had in the future around Soufal. Obviously, we know Souček is probably also in that as well. So I do think there may be that conversation at a later point around the likes of Soufal. Unless he can pull it round. Obviously, we are very early in the season, so we cannot write him off, because we know what he's like in that first season. And last year he did okay, but did that with a hernia, so it did really impact him. So I do like the fact that a signing like Merla gives us a long-term option on the other side as well. So we could move on Soufal, and we could essentially utilise the money we get from Soufal to plug it into a left back. But therein lies a problem in the fact that if we don't renew Cresswell's contract next season, we have 2 left backs we need to go and buy rather than just one. So there is that nagging piece in my mind. Of the younger talents, I do think Jacobs is a really interesting one. But obviously only having a year in Monaco, I think it will be reluctant to sell. And obviously they made quite a lot of money this summer. So the need to sell or to generate funds is probably quite low on their agenda this season, I would say.
I was going to say that I think while we've kind of got a caveat, both of Monaco's fullback both their form, because they had Dushemene in front of them, and he was very
and Youssef Fofana as well. So that was a brilliant double kind of pivot there.
For that pivot is incredible. So their stats are very much ones to be a little bit wary of. I think when you have such good players in front of you, they do shield you a lot. But he was one I mentioned when we missed out on Kostic. There's still a lot of left backs out there. There's still a lot of quality that we can go for, and he's another one. He's 6 foot. He's rapid, and if we can get a player like him in, then this just gives us another string to the bow, really, and makes us a bit more of a threat. If we want to play 3 at the back, move Cresswell into that left centre back position, because his distribution in that spot can really help someone like Jacobs create space going up and down that wing, or it can really create another outlet for us.
Yeah, I think that it's a great shout, and it's a great point as well. Is that when you have a double pivot like Monaco had last season, is pretty easy at times for your defense when you have that in front of you. It does allow you to be quite more expansive and to push up. And I'm probably going to go against my own natural compulsion here when I say as to I think probably the most sensible player for us to go for at this time is Sousa. I do prefer a defender that can defend first and then attack second. Obviously, attacking is a very important part of a fullback, so I do prefer a more rounded player. But I think we're in a state where we are now where he's a very gettable target, I do believe. Not only is he a gettable target, he is of high quality. Whilst I have my reservations about him defensively, in possession, he is incredibly good. When you get him into the final third, he is so dangerous as well. So when you look as to, well, does he defend better than Cresswell? He's probably no worse or no better, if we're really honest. But is he better in possession? Probably around about the same in certain degrees, but he's far more expansive and he's far more progressive and he can carry the ball. He's also over 6 foot as well. He is a big lad. He's not exactly. I think he's 6 foot. Hang on, we do have. Let's check. 6'2". So there you go. So again, he meets the David Moyes height measure. He's tall enough to go on this ride when Moyes is around. So he does reach that measure as well. So I think when we talk about where do we go, there are plenty of options now. The Emerson deal has collapsed. I think our biggest question is, what team do we want to be? Do we want to be much more forward-thinking and more kind of expansive in our play, or do we want to sit in that more kind of pragmatic approach? Now, I think if we want to be more expansive and more dangerous in attack, I don't think we can look much further than Sousa. I think we want to be more pragmatic and have a bit more structured. And I think your shout earlier, Sloth, is actually bang on for options. I know it's not one we've been linked with, but I think that's one where it makes a lot of sense because his contract coming to an end. He's around 25, I believe. Again, he's strong defensively. And the link with Ben Rama is obviously something that we should be acknowledging as something good, unless, again, as we say, Ben Rama could be going out, which is why we maybe haven't thought about that.
We do like using players as scouts. So, if Ben Rama would, then maybe we'll see.
Yeah, so I think, whilst it's disappointing we haven't, with the Emerson deal has at this point stopped, is, as they say in Monty Python, it has ceased to exist. It is as dead as a dodo. There is always chance it could be revived, and it could be a motivational process from West Ham to kind of see how willing he is and how much he wants to come to the club, and seeing if they come back to us to renegotiate and kind of bring the terms more in line with what we're willing to do. But I personally, I'm going to go against what I've said on many of these these shows and think as a what next, I do believe maybe Sousa, what's on the market right now, Sousa is the player we should go for. And maybe next season we reevaluate the left back position and actually look for a left back and have two players with a good variety. When we look at our right side, we do have quite a defensive minded right back and an attacking right back. So why should we maybe not next year look at the same process and have great competition? But I'm going to put my neck out and say, I think Sousa is where we should go. If 20 million euros is the price point, again, that meets that 15 million euro and 50 million pounds. Maybe we can negotiate that in terms of a little bit less on upfront cost and more in bonuses. But I think that's where I'm going to go. What about you, Sloth? And we'll end it there as our final thought on what next after Emerson.
I think I'd go Sousa. If we want to play three at the back, I think he's head and shoulders above the rest. I also think as well, it's really important to remember that his wages at Stuttgart, they're not a lot. I think they were rumoured to be around, about 15k. So, if you're offering
triple that, it means nothing in Premier League football.
And if we were worried about Emerson's wages potentially being, let's say it was potentially 80 grand, just to be a bit conservative, then you're saving a lot of money each week on wages that you're probably going to get back anyway. You're probably going to be able to sell him on for a big profit, but also he's a young player who can stay with the club for years if we progress and if he progresses as well. So for me, it'd be him, and if not, then we've also got that great option of Ben Sabini. So I think those two would be my picks, but Sousa's the standout for me so far.
Yeah, I think that's where we end today with talks on where do we go. I think we are unanimous in that Sousa is the option. I think myself and Sloth like a more attacking team with good technical flair. And again, if we're moving to that three at the back system, Sousa is the head and shoulders player. So on that note, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see some development on a left back this week, because by God, we need one in soon. But on that note, we'll see you all again soon, guys. And in the meantime, come on, you Irons.
Go on, you Irons.